And we are live. Welcome to the 94 by 50 podcast brought to you by yours truly, Ilya Kurbanov. Today, we'll be talking some football. And who is it to talk with other than Brandon Graham of OXP Media and the host of the First and 10 podcast? Brandon is a great insider for the OXP Media, covering CFL and NFL coverage. If you haven't had the chance to listen to its podcast yet, it is available on Spotify and other platforms. Just search up First and 10 and you'll be able to hear from the man himself. Brandon, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you're doing well during this crazy, still pandemic times.
Right. No, thanks for that introduction. My goodness. Yes, I appreciate it. You do a lot of good work too with the 94 by 50 podcast, man. So shout out to you too. But yeah, thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me on, man. I'm excited to get into it for sure.
Hey, man, we've had a lot of action over the 18 weeks of football. A lot of
Yes,
action from the undefeated Cardinals losing the game, from AB leaving the field, and many other injuries that played a factor in this year's NFL season. But before we go into the NFL, let's talk about the prospects that just finished the college football playoffs. You know, we've had an exciting top four that have been showing a lot of
Mhm.
strides and great football over the course of the year, with Cincinnati, Georgia, obviously winning the championship and ending the drought,
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
then obviously Michigan having a tremendous season, winning the Big Ten for the first time in
Right.
history, and beating Ohio State for the first time since 2011, if I'm not
2011.
mistaken. It's a while ago. And obviously Alabama once again being the anchor of the college
hmm
football and making once again to the national championship. What are your
hmm
thoughts on Georgia finally ending the drought?
Well, it's once again 40 years, 1980, 1981, I believe is the last time they actually won. So that's a long time coming. And this was their year. This had to be their year because you have Kobe Dean, you had Jordan Davis as well too on the defense. The defensive side, that team were just full of NFL talent. But I like what you said about just the year in general with your team, Michigan. I know you have to put your team in there. I'm an Ohio State supporter, but no, shout out to your Michigan Wolverines, John Harbaugh, who may be, a Dolphins head coach later on. Who knows exactly what's going to happen with all that? But back to Georgia, no, great game. Really, kind of like a defensive struggle for the start of the game, the first half. You had Bryce Young kind of bottled up. You had Stetson Bennett not being able to get the ball out because he's getting pressured by that great defense on that side as well too. Just a lot of defensive prowess on both sides of the ball, right? They're both, the entire team is just NFL players all across the board on both ends of the ball. Seeing Jameson Williams go out in the second quarter, Jameson Williams, formerly of Ohio State, transferred to Alabama this year, became their number one receiver. John Mechie, a guy from Brampton, Ontario, where I'm currently at right now, actually being, getting injured as well too with his, what's it called, torn ACL, right? Just really a lot of really unfortunate things that happened throughout the year and a lot of injuries. But Nick Saban was really gracious in defeat. Last year, winning with Mac Jones, winning with Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, these guys are just Jalen Waddle, who are all killing it within the NFL right now. He had his time, and they're going to reload, and they're going to be the most talented team next year because you got Bryce Young coming back, right? You have on the defensive side, you got all of your anchors again coming right back, right? So it's going to be. Sorry, let me get the light right here, but yeah, it's going to be a great year for them next year. They're all young. Sophomore for Bryce Young, he's going to be a junior, then obviously go off to the NFL. This was the year Georgia had to win. If they didn't win this year, you would not see them win for a long period of time. So I'm glad for them. I'm happy for Kirby Smart, happy for that entire team. Kirby Smart being an assistant for Nick Saban in the past and beating his predecessor in a sense, right? So beating his his former head coach. It was a great game, and seeing Stetson Bennett kind of go through it too as a walk on. So let me just give you a story right here. Stetson Bennett joined Georgia, obviously walked on to Georgia. He had offers from other schools, but he grew up in Georgia, wanted to go to his dream school, went to Georgia. Guess who, got recruited with him? Justin Fields, right? Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears quarterback. So what Stetson Bennett does is he leaves, go to junior college. The year after, Justin Fields goes to Ohio State transfers over there because Jake Fromm, who played in the Giants last week and did the QB sneak that we'll talk about, got Joe Judge fired in New York. Anyways, all these QB carousels. He leaves from junior college, comes back, wins the championship, beats out a number one prospect in a same guy that went to the same high school as Bryce Young, and now he's a national champion, right? So just perseverance, determination. A lot of guys on this team pretty much just bet on themselves and they won.
Yeah, and like you said, Georgia has been the best team all year. Their defense was ranked number one in the nation. They've had all the pieces that they needed. Their offense and defense was flowing, and like you said, both teams couldn't get going in that first half, and then all of a sudden the defense picks off Bryce Young twice, exactly. In that fourth quarter and just stealing the game. So it's definitely cherry on the top of that program, as they've been waiting for so long to get to that point. And a lot of debate has been around the college football playoffs, right? The format and how things progressed and how many teams should be in the playoffs, because obviously there are a lot of teams that could be deserving of a spot, right? Maybe the first two seeds get a bye, and then the four other teams could play it out or increase the number of teams. But then the way both SEC teams pretty much dismantled the opposition in this playoffs kind of showed that maybe we don't need a bigger format, right? What are your thoughts on potential change of playoff format, or should it stay the way it is?
Well, this is the first year that a team outside of the Power 5 conference, with Cincinnati, same colors.
Same conference.
Same conference in the American Conference, right? Going to the college football playoffs, right? This is the first year there's a breakthrough with that. So that conversation is dead now, right? When it comes to, can a team from outside of a Power 5 conference make it to the Big Dance? So we're seeing all that happen, and the entire year, I was saying, hey, as Ohio State supporter, I'm like, hey, I really hope that down the line you have probably 6 teams or you have 8 teams. But then I thought about it. Football is different than having a tournament such as like in basketball, where you can play multiple games after back-to-back or in a few days, right? It's just more injuries. It's just a lot of implications when it comes to that, right? I still think that the 4 is still a great format to have. If they were to expand it, they would need to have a lot of measures done, right? You need to kind of iron out a lot of things and understand that, hey, now Alabama's still going to get in if they lose 2 games. Georgia's still going to get in if they lose 2 games. So it's like that allure of now every single week being like a playoff, because really in college football, every week you have to win the game or else you're going to drop your ranking, right? That kind of allure of that and that excitement, it's kind of gone in a sense, right? So I love seeing teams like Ohio State playing Oregon in week 2, I believe, week 2 or week 3, and losing that game and still coming back and going to the Rose Bowl, being the 5th seed, right, making their way back because they only had one loss. The one loss pretty much 2 losses, but still kind of worked their way back until they saw Michigan, of course. Those teams, who knows if they're deserving. I don't think they're deserving of being in that top 4. I think if you lose 2 games, that's something that you should probably be exempt from. And the teams that go undefeated, you deserve to get into that big dance, right? So I like the format as it is. We saw a lot of different scenarios kind of unfold, but if it does expand in the future, great. That's something I'll get used to. But right now, I think it's exciting every single week since it kind of feels like a playoff.
Absolutely. And with obviously, like you said, Ohio State losing the 2 games, but then also you mentioned Oregon. Oregon started off the season really hot, especially beating Ohio State early on. But then, injuries happen, and then they fall to the unranked Stanford really, really early in the season. And it's kind of like it puts everything in jeopardy right away, right on the spot off of that one loss. But now let's shift into the NFL. We have an exciting weekend ahead of us, right? With the wild card games and the first playoff games with that new format as well, with the 2 teams getting a bye, and Green Bay and Tennessee surprisingly got the bye as well. Man. Yeah. They kind of were at the top there and then fell off and rose to the top again with a few wins and losses of the opposition. Which team are you most excited to watch in this playoff run?
So once again, I'm going to be kind of biased here, but once another team that I support is, and I've been watching for a long time, is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals have not won a playoff game since the year I was born in '91. So think about that. That's 31 years now. Oh my gosh, 30. I just turned 30 last year. 31 years since they've actually won a game, right? So it's wild how that's actually kind of unfolded, right? So I'm really excited to see Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon go up against the Raiders. You can even talk about that Raiders game against the Chargers, which is really exciting. Really exciting, man. Like right down to the wire going down. And if they were to tie, then both teams go through. But the Raiders tied that game, they would have had to play the Chiefs, which you probably don't want, So I'm excited to see that game, to see if the Bengals can, reinvigorate themselves and actually get a playoff win for the first time in 31 years. That's what I'm really excited for. And another game that I'm excited for is I'm going to say Dallas versus the 49ers, because Mike Shanahan, Dan Quinn, when they went to the Super Bowl and lost 28-3, that was the offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, who's now the head coach of the 49ers, and Dan Quinn was the head coach. They know what each, side is going to do on offense, on defense. The 49ers love running the ball. Dallas kind of struggles. Every single game that they've given up more than 150 yards, they've lost. So seeing that and seeing the team that really likes to run the ball and 49ers go up against them, that's going to be a really exciting game. And even there's a lot of games, man, but even the Cardinals versus Rams, that game's going to be unbelievable too, because Matt Stafford is 0-3 in playoff games. Can he get over the hump, right? So a lot of really interesting games to kind of watch this week. And yeah, we'll dive in. What are you excited about?
Man, like you said, the Cardinals and the Rams is the game that I'm kind of looking forward to. I think with kind of the Cardinals lingering with a lot of injuries, they lost J.J. Watt, obviously, early in the season. And then DeAndre Hopkins with meniscus or MCL injury, had to repair and get a surgery right away. That's one of the biggest targets that you can lose towards the playoffs.
Absolutely.
DeAndre Hopkins, we've seen it. He's proven it. He's one of the best receivers in the league. He's top 3 easily, even on his off year, in my opinion. But then Cooper Kupp had a fantastic season, setting records, and the way he said and approached, kept that kind of humbled himself with the way he was asked about the records. The way, if you look at how Calvin Johnson played those 16 games and set that all-time receiving record in the season, right? With Matt Stafford as well. Right. And then Cooper Kupp had that same opportunity, but then 17 games, and he was shy 20 yards, right? So just to see those two, I think, would be amazing. And like you said, getting over the hump for Stafford, seeing him advance to the next round of the playoffs and possibly make a run for the Super Bowl, because they do have a team. They have a lockdown corner. They obviously have Aaron Donald, and they added Von Miller, obviously, at the middle of the season. OBJ has been tremendous for the Rams as well, catching 7 touchdown passes. It's going to be interesting to see them. But like you said, also, I'm kind of excited to see the Bengals as well, because it's a young team. And if they do win that game, it's like it's only room to grow, regardless of how their playoff run ends or continues.
Yeah. Well said, man. Yeah, really well said. And I would say, too, onto the OBJ point, Matt Stafford, his QBR was pretty much like 159.7 throughout the year. Without OBJ, it's dropped down by like 15%, man. Because there's so many guys to feed the ball to now in the Rams. So Stafford's going to have to kind of pick out, certain guys. You saw last week playing against the 49ers in that game where the 49ers had to win to make the playoffs. He threw that pick in overtime, right? Because he's forcing the ball to OBJ, and that's what a lot of quarterbacks do. They force the ball to these big-time receivers, especially OBJ, because he demands the ball a lot. So I kind of thought that the chemistry when Cooper Kupp was going nuts in the start of the year, I thought it was kind of kind of played around with when OBJ got there. But they're going to try to find ways to get everyone the ball and kind of go from there. But yeah, as you said too, in that last game, the Cincinnati Bengals game, one big point, and even Coach oh my gosh, former Del Rio. He used to be the Raiders coach. He said, and he's now the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. He said, Derek Carr struggles a lot in cold weather. He's 0-4 when it's like in Canadian weather. If it's like under 10 degrees or like less than like -5 and negatives, he's 0-4 in his career, especially in the playoffs as well too. So this game is actually gonna be snowing. He's not good. He has small hands, right, for a quarterback. Unfortunately, he fumbles all the time. It's going to be tough for him to kind of get through because he does play really bad in the cold. That's another point too, man.
And now for the team that which team do you think could be the potential dark horse of this playoff run to go to the Super Bowl?
Man, that's a tough question. That's a really tough question. But dark horse, I really, man, I don't know what it is. They're kind of playing well at this period in time. I don't know if it's more so, but whoever wins the 49ers Dallas game, I think can have a definite, run in this playoff, right? Because they run the ball really well. Well, the 49ers run the ball really well. I'll say if the 49ers are kind of they're not a dark horse. I wish it was the Cincinnati Bengals, but I don't see them kind of advancing too much. They can be really, really tough, but I think they kind of peaked in the season. The 49ers are kind of getting all their guys healthy now. They're running the ball really well. And if you can run the ball in the playoffs, then you're set, right? I think if the 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys, they can actually make a run because they're tough to beat. Deebo Samuel's a monster. He's just
fantastic.
A monster.
He had an incredible season. Incredible. One of the most versatile players probably that ever played.
100%. He's incredible, man. He's ridiculous. So him running the ball, throwing touchdowns, being a decoy in a lot of the formation split packages, man, him, Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, that team, they have some guys, and they're getting their running backs back too from injury. So, but Eli Mitchell's been pretty good this year too. So I think the 49ers are kind of peaking at the right time. They get a big win against the Rams last week at home in SoFi Stadium. I think they can make a run, man. What are your team? What's yours?
I would say, man, you can never count out Bill Belichick.
Yeah. Okay.
They've been amazing on both ends of the field, defensively, offensively. They had one of the best defenses in the league this year, and it's shown. And then Mac Jones, running that offense to perfection. As a young quarterback, as a rookie quarterback, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And if he does, you can kind of give him a leeway. Well, he's a first-year quarterback. Yeah, he's going to learn, and he's going to grow, and he's going to be much better down the line. And another thing, I'm surprised you said 49ers because it's going to be really hard to beat that Dallas team with that O-line.
Yeah, you have a point.
It's going to be really hard. The film is going to be, okay, we're going to take care of Nick Bosa, and then we're going to need to make stops. And their defense with Micah Parsons and obviously Diggs.
Yes, Diggs.
They shut down a lot of offense. A lot of offense for a lot of teams, and they've shown. But they also have given up a lot of points.
Yes, they have.
So
they have
given
up a lot of points.
Consistency problem within the Cowboys, but I still think they have a shot. But yeah, for my dark horse, I would stick with the Patriots because they have guys that have experience on the defensive end that have been to the Super Bowl multiple times and won the Super Bowl. You have Bill Belichick, arguably, not even arguably, it's not a debate. He's the greatest coach ever.
I think he's the
greatest coach ever.
Definitely the greatest coach ever.
And
what I forgot? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wanted you to finish, but what I was going to say is the thing is with the defense of the Dallas Cowboys, yes, you see the picks that Diggs has, but he gets cooked. He's the corner that has the most yards. The most yards on him because he literally grew up as a receiver and then switched later on. But he just has great ball skills, but he gets cooked, especially by really quick receivers. So that's something to keep your eye on for sure. Micah Parsons has played incredible, but once again, the Dallas Cowboys defense, if they give up more than 150 yards on the ground,
it's game.
They usually lose the game. They usually lose, right? So that's the one thing to kind of look at. But I actually forgot about the dark horse that I'm really confident in, the Buffalo Bills. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, man, I'm surprised they're even in the wild card. Because, to be honest with you, I at the start of the year had them having the bye because of the Tennessee Titans.
Likewise.
Right. So like they have a harder, path there, and it should be Tennessee versus Patriots, but it's what we
And
have.
they
But
played
the Bills,
amazing. They played
yeah,
amazing in the beginning of the season, and
right,
obviously they lost their shutdown corner
right,
to an
yeah,
injury.
Tre'Davious White, yeah,
Tre'Davious White,
yeah.
he's a Pro Bowl corner
Oh yeah,
on any
he's
given
nasty.
day. So
Yeah,
losing a player like him obviously is going to cost you maybe a game or two, just on
absolutely.
that factor. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. They should have been in the bye conversation,
Hmm.
and matter of fact, they should have been up there and waiting for the
Yeah.
next week matchups. Um,
Right.
Now, who is your favorite in this case? Now we talked about the dark horses, right? We obviously have the favorites in
Yeah.
the Super Bowl. A lot of people going for that matchup, rematch between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers.
Hmm.
Um,
Who
what are
do
your
I have?
thoughts? Who's your favorite to win it all?
I don't have the Buccaneers in the final at all. I just don't have them. I don't trust that they don't have the once again. You have Mike Evans, right? But Chris Godwin's out. Chris Godwin led your team in catches, led the team in yards for the most part. Um, he's gone, right? So now, and of course, the Antonio Brown situation happened, and there was another guy that can actually create separation and get down the field. He's been injured throughout the year, and then of course he has that big breakdown and whatever
Mhm.
happened there, right? Which is
Mhm.
disrespectful both sides because I'm going to give some fault to Bruce Arians for sure.
There's a
I just don't see it.
there's two sides to a story, like we
Always,
always say, right? So,
always two
but
sides to the story.
we'll leave that out of the conversation.
Yeah. So I really think, and all year I've been kind of, I guess my favorite quarterback, my favorite, my second favorite, a team that I really support too because they play the right way, and I think they have the pieces this year. The Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers. They have once again they have a bye. They're going to see the weakest seed, right? They have and they play really well in Lambeau because they're all used to the cold. So playing well in the cold, playing well in hot climates like Arizona. I think this is the Packers year. So I see the Packers possibly going up against the Chiefs, right, or against the Bills, right. So in NFC coming out, Packers for sure. That's who I have, and man, it's going to be really tough because there's such good teams. I don't see Tennessee kind of making it. If Derrick Henry comes back, they'll be really tough. But I do see the Chiefs getting back because they're playing well at the right time right now. So I see a Packers Chiefs Super Bowl, man. How about you?
I was gonna say Packers are definitely my favorite, and
Right,
the reason being is Aaron
Aaron
Rodgers.
Rodgers. Yeah,
You got Devontae Adams.
mm,
You got players. You got players
yeah,
that
man.
can play. You got players
Mm-hmm.
that can get the ball down the field. You got players that can beat routes.
Right.
In the slot.
Mm-hmm.
Deep on the
Yeah.
run. They have Dillon, who's been playing like really really good
Yeah.
down in the second half of the season. I would say with
Yeah.
Aaron Jones when he kind of had a few games off with the injuries.
Yeah.
But then Aaron Jones, he's still Aaron
He's
Jones.
nasty. He's nasty,
He's
man.
still he's still one of the best running backs in the game. He might
Mm-hmm.
be getting a little older, but nonetheless, he can still get the ball and run through that lane
Mm-hmm.
like a bus, like a truck,
Yeah.
whatever you
They
whatever you
have
want.
yeah,
So
they definitely have the best like two running backs for sure in the
and
league, right? Yeah.
and like you said, for the finals, it's hard to ignore the fact that Mahomes could lead his team back to the Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
and for a chance to win it again. They're deep. That team is just too deep, and they can do it on both ends of the field. Like we've seen it multiple times. They have great defense. They have amazing offense, and they have the experience. They pretty much returned, I would say, 80% of the guys that they had
Mm-hmm.
on that Super Bowl squad.
Mm-hmm.
Now that went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Buccaneers, and you seeing at the exact same group of people that they're hungry for
Mm-hmm.
more, that are
I love
hungry
it.
after that loss,
I
right?
love how you say both ends of the field, like it's both ends of the court in basketball.
Hey, here's the thing, but it's still
thing.
both ends of the field, right?
Yeah,
It's
it is. It is
once you
both ends
turn
of
the
the field.
ball over, it's going the opposite direction. So,
Facts,
right?
facts, facts.
So,
Yo, no, and
um,
that's good. And they're playing really like the Chiefs though. The defense struggled a lot at the start of the season. Now they're starting to like play really well as unit. They've figured it out. Chris Jones is there. Frank Clark, like You have Tyrann Mathieu on the defensive side. Sorensen was getting cooked. Now he's playing better. That defense is back to being the defense of old that we've seen. So and they're doing it at the right time, right? And throughout the year, you can never have a smooth year. In football, it's so much up and downs, just like basketball. So much up and downs. You're gonna lose, get into some streaks where you're gonna lose. There's some streaks where you'll win. But the team that's been the most consistent is the Packers, which I agree with you. The entire year, after getting killed in the first game and all these people talk about Aaron Rodgers, to now they've been but Aaron Rodgers is used to doing that. Like, he's just used to running the table. He's just incredible. He's the best quarterback. Like, he's the best thrower of the football I've ever seen, like, in my lifetime, right? And me as a quarterback too, seeing what he does, I'm like, this guy makes everything look easy, right? So, but with Devontae, with Alan Lazard, you have Marcus Scantling, Marcus Valdez Scantling, sorry.
Valdez Scantling.
Valdez Scantling. You have Tunyon. Tunyon's out, obviously, but you have like Mercedes Lewis and other guys that come in and actually are playing well. Bakhtiari, the line's playing well. Defense is good. You have weapons all over on both sides of the field. These are like saying, so they're nasty. Yeah, man.
Now that you kind of have the favorites to win, who do you think could be the potential kind of trouble for one team or the other in their respective divisions to reach the Super Bowl?
Oh, man, I think it's it's pretty easy in the AFC. The AFC, I would have, if the Indianapolis Colts made the playoffs, I would say the Indianapolis Colts, but they failed and lost to the Jaguars. I'm going to say it's the Tennessee Titans, man. I don't see the Tennessee Titans actually winning and getting to the Super Bowl, but Mike Vrabel is such a good coach. They're so connected as a unit. Any team in the AFC, whether it's the Bills, whether it's the Raiders, not the Raiders, the Cincinnati, any team in the AFC are going to have a really tough time getting through the Tennessee Titans, even the Chiefs, because the defense is actually playing a lot better. They might get back Derrick Henry, which is super hard to bring down in cold weather. He's like really, really hard to bring down in cold weather. He's a beast, and they might get him back. They're running the ball well. Tannehill's actually been low-key like a really good player this year, right? So really good quarterback. Tennessee Titans, I think, is going to be really tough in the AFC. In the NFC, there's a few teams in the NFC that I would probably kind of pick out as like a dark horse, but I think the biggest team in the NFC would have to be, man, it'll be the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, if they win this week, I think it's going to be hard for them to. It'll be hard for any team. They don't want to see the Dallas Cowboys when they're peaking, because this is the best version of Dak Prescott we've seen. This is the best version of like that defense we've seen, obviously, and offensively, offensive wise, they're playing really well too. They're just a really good team. Obviously, Michael Gallup got injured, but they have guys like Cedric Wilson. You have CeeDee Lamb. You have Amari Cooper. You have Dustin Schultz playing really well. Man, they have weapons everywhere, and it's the Cowboys, and everyone hates them, but they're going to be a tough out for sure.
It's the most hated team, 100%.
Yes, 100%. 110. But the thing is, the one thing I used to hate the Cowboys, man, but seeing them in Hard Knocks in the start of the year, they had their episodes, and I guess Dak Prescott to make them a little bit more likable. When they had Tony Romo as the quarterback, I hated them because everyone used to be a fan of those. I hated them. But Dak is more of a likable guy, so I guess that's the one thing I'll say. But Jerry Jones, waste man. Anyways, it is what it is. It is what it is, man.
Oh my. Well,
yeah.
Now, let's say we have obviously the three biggest awards in the NFL would be probably defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, MVP. Rookie of the year, I'm just gonna leave it out. We already know who it is. Yeah. If it's not Jamar Chase, I'm never watching football ever again. So
it should be.
It's as simple as that. And but MVP conversation between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers is really close.
You think so?
Well, I mean, 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and higher QBR rating.
Right.
The completion rate is a little higher. But
okay.
Tom Brady has him on yardage, and I think he has him by a solid 1,000 in the race.
1,000 yards?
I'm pretty sure, because I think it's like he has or maybe it's like 600.
600 probably, I would say that. Yeah, I don't think Tom Brady's played well enough, has dominated enough to. They almost lost to the Jets, man. I'm sorry. Of course, it's Tom Brady's Tom Brady. This guy's almost 40 years old. Like, that guy's obviously the GOAT, like best competitor we've seen in that sport for sure. One of the best, obviously. But Aaron Rodgers, just you take a team at 12-3, now 12-4, obviously didn't really play too much. He's just dominated. It's just been he has the lowest touchdown to interception ratio in the league. He is the highest percentage QBR in the league as well too. That's a stat that some people don't really look at, but completion percentage is a big deal. He has pretty much like the highest completion percentage in the league. I think behind Tom Brady or right there. I don't think it's close, man. I think the Packers have dominated the entire year. I think that him, Devontae Adams have just wrecked the league. He came out with one of those things where he's like, I own you. I think it's Aaron Rodgers, man. I think it's bar none easily Aaron Rodgers because he's just what he's done, and I think there's a little stat. I'm trying to find the stat. I'm trying to figure it out and remember it, but touchdowns to interceptions plus QB percentage or completion percentage, he's like miles ahead of everyone this year. So I'm gonna have to give it to Mr. Ivermectin, man. Even unvaxxed, doesn't matter. He's the GOAT, man. In my opinion, he's been the best this year by far.
Yeah, he showed.
Yeah,
he showed that he has been the best, especially
right.
when everyone kind of looked at him and like, there goes Aaron Rodgers. First, he didn't want to be on the team. Didn't want to be on a team, I guess, like whether it was, a storytelling or maybe it was a fact. We never know. Two sides to a story, like we said.
Always.
Two sides to a story, like we said. But like you said, he dominated all year. He dominated in Arizona when they played him away. He's just been that guy. He's been that guy this year, and like, there's nothing against it. No matter badly the media might not like him, and everything, he still showed up and played every single game like, you guys are not in my league.
100%. Like, you can literally bet the over on him throwing over 2 touchdowns in the game. I think he's thrown more than 2 touchdowns or at least 2 touchdowns in like 95% of the games this year. If you can tell me one game or just tell me a dominant performance that Tom Brady had. I think he threw 5 touchdowns one game against the Carolina Panthers. It's the Panthers. But like if you were to show me and ask me which game did Tom Brady dominate in, I can't point to one game. You know what I'm saying? Aaron Rodgers, I have like 7 games where he killed, the what's it called? The Vikings, dominated the Arizona Cardinals, and both those teams are playing incredible. I think they're close to undefeated. Dominated against the Bears. Dominated against every team he went up against.
Them.
The Browns, he owned them. And that's what it is. So I think when it comes to being that dominant and just giving the ball to Devontae Adams, having all those passing Brett Favre for the most touchdowns in Packers history, doing all these things, he's just incredible, man. He's just like, this guy just, to be that good at football, I'm kind of envious. I'm like, this guy's just really good at football, So that's what it is. I mean, go to the defensive player of the year. Like, obviously, defensive player of the year for rookie is Micah Parsons easily. Defensive player of the year, people are saying it's going to be Trayvon Diggs, but no, it might be TJ Watt because TJ Watt has 22.5.
I think it has to be TJ Watt.
Yeah, of course. You have to give it to him.
Be TJ Watt. TJ Watt willed the Steelers into the playoffs.
Oh yeah, we're not even talking about that.
No disrespect to any of the players that play for that organization. Ben Roethlisberger having his last season with the team and perhaps his last season in the league, period. Obviously did everything he could to ensure that they get the wins necessary to make the playoffs. But without TJ Watt on that defensive line, they're not winning games.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 22.5
games.
He had 22.5 sacks, and they had 55 sacks the entire year. That's a third of the sacks they have. So they have the most sacks in the league, right? So that's kind of little Cam Hayward. A few guys in that line that are pretty good, but like, yeah, he willed 100%. He willed that team, and he was injured some games too, and he still had 22.5. Like, it's wild.
He missed games. Yeah, he did. He did 22 and a half, I think, in 14 or 12 games. They were saying
14. Yeah, 14 games. I think 12 games. 14 or 12.
14 or 12. I don't.
Yeah. But that's still a 3 game. That's 3 or 4 games out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's nuts.
That's
So
Michael
people say,
Stratton's record just disappearing at our
Disappearing,
sight. You know what I mean? If he
Right,
actually
right, right.
plays all 17 games. But
Yeah.
as we kind of nearing the end of the podcast, who's your offensive player of the year? I would give you mine.
Yeah,
I
give me
want
yours.
it to be Cooper Kupp.
Right.
He
You want it to
dominated.
be
You can't say he hasn't. He hasn't had a game. I think he only had one game where he didn't have 90 plus yards.
I'm in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with you that he's just been incredible offensively. He's been great. But there
I
are some
think he
other guys
scored a
too.
touchdown in every game.
Yes, he has.
I think he
don't
scored a
he's-
touchdown in every game.
Other than
He
one,
has
other
most
than one
receiving
game.
yards, the most receptions,
Right.
most touchdowns
Right.
as a receiver, 100%.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm
So-
gonna have to give it. I'm thinking of other guys that I might give it to. I think it's gonna have to be him, man. I think it's gonna have to be Cooper Kupp. There are some other guys that, like, Jamar Chase has played really well, like right behind Cooper Kupp. Joe Burrow should be in the Pro Bowl, and there's another guy. And I'm just naming off Bengals right now. But no, it's Cooper Kupp, and I think offensive player of the year. If MVP is an offensive player, of course he's the offensive player of the year. But Cooper Kupp's definitely right there, man, for sure. And you give some shout out to Matt Stafford because he's just played really well this year too.
And you know what's funny is, like, everyone at the beginning of the season kind of was talking whether, like, how is Stafford going to adapt that situation? And I'm like, Stafford has been the most perhaps underrated quarterback that
Sure.
played over the last decade,
Mhm.
who had
yeah.
only one weapon in Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And Calvin Johnson then retires fairly early, you know, and obviously injury concerns at such a level, it's better to walk away from the game than, you know, not be able to do a lot of things
For sure.
after you're done playing.
Mhm.
And, you know, and then after Calvin Johnson, he didn't have many weapons. Like, Detroit been either mediocre or
trash.
horrible.
Right.
And if they won games, it's because of Stafford. He won them
Facts.
games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now he
Yeah.
comes to LA and he
Mhm.
has all these weapons to work with, and he has a solid defense that can get you stops and then give you another chance to score and win the game. You know, it's been amazing to watch him play.
Yeah. It's been a great. I'm a little bit worried about the defense because they can still. I know you have the great names, but like they got to work well as a unit, right? And
100%, I agree.
yeah, that entire secondary can be roasted sometimes, right? So I'm gonna say that Matt Stafford's been incredible for a long period of time, right? And people that were surprised that he actually, is playing this well just have not been watching football enough. He's just been locked in Detroit with Matt Patricia, with a guy like, what's his name? Different coaches throughout the years, right? Just terrible coach. He hated Matt Patricia, by the way. So he's been incredible, man. But I'm not worried too much about the offense because Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the running backs, Cam Akers, OBJ,
Akers came back with.
Right, yeah, Sony Michel, sorry.
Sonny Michel is playing phenomenal as well.
He's playing, really good, man. They have Cam Akers coming back too, who had an ACL injury like 7 months ago and still coming back.
Achilles,
it's ridiculous.
Torn Achilles. That's even worse.
I don't know how that's possible. But he's doing it somehow. I guess it shows the technology. I don't know how he's doing it, but I'm just worried about the defense because they can give up. Like that last drive against the 49ers last week shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened, but Jimmy Garoppolo actually played well. Deebo Samuel played well as well too. They got open. They had some breakdowns in the coverage, and that's what I'm worried about. But yeah, Tyler Rapp, Jalen Ramsey's incredible, but they have to work better as a unit and put pressure on quarterbacks. That's it.
Man, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I honestly can't wait for that Monday night game because they've shown some great football between the two every time they faced each other. And it was amazing to watch them play twice, and now we get the opportunity to see them for the third time. They split the series, obviously, in the season. Who do you have winning that game? Arizona or
Yeah,
Rams?
that's a really good game. I think Arizona, and this is my problem with Kyler Murray in Arizona and Cliff Kingsbury throughout the years, right? They always get up, they always start the season out really hot, like incredibly hot. Kyler Murray is not really used to losing because he's been like undefeated in high school and played well in college at Oklahoma. You know, he's always used to winning, right? But by the end of the year, they kind of fall off a bit. They kind of play down the competition and they just lose that steam. And they go as far as Kyler Murray does. And usually once a year, he gets injured at the midpoint. It's happened 2 years in a row now, right? Because of his body, his frame, the way he's jerking around and moving, he's going to get someone injured. And he got his ankle injured this year, unfortunately. I'm a really big Kyler guy. But in that game, it's in SoFi Stadium. The Cardinals beat them first, and of course the Rams came back and beat them. I think it's one of those games where James Conner has to run really well. I just don't see the Cardinals beating them. With everything at stake, like this is their year, they have to go. I'm gonna take the Rams in that game. I just don't. The Cardinals haven't shown me enough late to have to want to bet on them, and I think the Rams will come out winning that game. They stop Kyler Murray. It's gonna be tough. And he'll will that team, of course, as he wills every single team he's on. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Rams. Who are you taking?
I would take the Rams as well. I think their depth towards the end of the season is much better, and they improved every single game. Although we've seen Stafford had a few games where he threw 2 interceptions and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down who wants it more and who has more depth. And honestly, with the addition, like I said earlier, with Von Miller on the defense, and then OBJ having like that like pressure release almost for Cooper Kupp, because now when you have both of them on the field, it's like, you're not necessarily looking to cover OBJ as much as you would want to cover Cooper Kupp, but then if you leave him wide open, he can get away with the ball, right? So, and we've seen him make catches, all kinds of catches, and it's not going to be surprising.
The OBJ thing, I'm still kind of on the fence about, because I think every quarterback kind of forces the ball to him, and that's why I'm like, I was kind of confused with that move, because I'm like, whoa, they already have Van Jefferson, a second-year player. He's unreal out of Florida. He's a great receiver too. They have Tyler Higbee at tight end. They have some other guys too that can actually play, right? So I thought it would be fine without OBJ, but no, yes, you get another element of a guy that can play OBJ. OBJ is kind of overrated, to be honest with you, but he's he's putting it together now with a good quarterback, and he's going to kind of show. But yeah, man, it is what it is. I don't like what he did with Baker Mayfield at the start of the year, but that's neither here nor there.
It is what it is. It's out of our control. So as we're nearing the end of this 94 by 50 podcast, season 2, episode number 3, Brandon Graham, First and 10.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to First and 10 and OXP Media. We're gonna do a little, like I said, I mentioned it to you. It's Into It. It's like a segment where I ask you questions for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, depending on how fast you can answer them. And depending on how many questions I got, but I don't have a lot. I probably like 5, 6. So it's like this or that type of thing. It's rapid fire. Yeah, it's not thing like I'm not gonna ask you, what do you think about this? And then you have to kind of elaborate your point or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's gonna be more football edition. I know you played football. You understand. Football. It's your thing. Watch more football than I do. Hey, I mean, basketball is basketball.
That's what your thing. Yeah. Right. That's what basketball.
So the timer will start right now, and the very first question would be, so let's go. Super Bowl or college football playoffs?
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Now, when you say Super Bowl, what's the first snack or type of food that comes to your mind on a Super Bowl party plate?
Nachos the dip.
If you had to pick one player currently in the league to be in a Hall of Fame, who would it be?
Aaron Rodgers.
If you had to pick a player who is not yet in the Hall of Fame and is retired, who would it be?
Terrell Owens.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one.
Terrell Owens.
Now, you've interviewed a lot of CFL players, a couple of NFL players. Who is your favorite player to interview?
That's a tough one to kind of say. Jeez, damn. I'm gonna say Derek Dennis, Calgary Stampeders. He's hilarious, New York guy.
Perfect. If you wanted to interview someone on the First and 10 podcast that you haven't yet, who would you love to interview?
Chad Johnson.
Ocho Cinco, can't go wrong with him. I think he's hilarious. I think he could be a great one.
Yeah, I think he's like a great interview, man. He's like, he's the guy I looked up to. So
when you
I looked up to, no, he did a lot. Still, he did.
He did a lot of things. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that guy. Yeah.
When you play football, what was your go-to song to get ready?
Yo, wow, that's tough. What? I'm gonna say Lord knows, Drake, Rick Ross. Lord knows.
And one last one. If you had a chance to go to the Super Bowl or go to college football playoffs 3 years in a row,
Jeez.
Which one are you choosing?
Jeez. 3 years in a row? Taking the Super Bowl.
Still Super Bowl.
Yo, I would want to mix that. I would want to mix that, to be honest with you. I want to mix that. I want to go to the college football playoff, but I want my team to be in there, right? I want the team to be in there. But Super Bowl is just like, I've never really, you can say you got a Super Bowl, that's lit. If you can say you got the one, like, you know how hard it is to get to one of those games sometimes?
They're expensive.
Mad expensive. Like, I can get to the college football playoff if I really wanted to. The Super Bowl is like, it's tough because everyone in North America wants to go there. So that's like, I would say Super Bowl for sure. What song do you get amped to before a game? All the time.
Man, there's so many. Like I kind of switch songs so many times. Right. Like honestly, but there's one Russian song that I really like. It's like a hip hop, and the name of the artist is like Basta. I don't know how you I wouldn't know how to really pronounce it. I know how to pronounce it in Russian, but it wouldn't sound the same at all. Mm-hmm. But he has a song that I really like. But if I had to go with someone like North American, I used to go with Mick Mills, Polo and his Shell Shock. Is that the name song?
That's a big tune.
Or 42 Flows. But then you can't really go wrong with anything that J. Cole has. So I don't know.
Well, I
could go with anything from J. Cole. Like I don't care if it's Hello. I don't care if it's Love Yours. I don't care if it's like, no Role Models. And then you can name a list of the songs that you can get amped to. But J. Cole is kind of my go-to artist. So
wow, J. Cole is the kind of guy. If you ride the subway, you ride the bus, that's the kind of music you listen to. He's for bus ride music. I don't know if he's for that's my take though.
Yeah, you don't understand.
but
it just gets me in the zone. I don't know. Like I can just listen to it and be like
amped.
It's not even amped. I'm just like zone. Like I don't. Everything is kind of out of my head, and I'm just like relaxing.
Just vibing.
Yeah, but I also listen to some motivational stuff. You know, Inky Johnson.
Yes, Inky Johnson. Yeah, I actually follow him on Twitter.
Yeah,
he gets something done. I listen to his stuff.
He's legendary. Sadly, I've never had a chance to see him play, but he's got a great story. For those who haven't seen Inky Johnson's story, I suggest that you go on YouTube and just search him up. There's some great inside info that you can get for your everyday life and understand that everything is not about really what you are about. It's about what really surrounds you and your family and friends and everything that really,
Facts, 100%.
Whatever you believe in.
100%. So you speak Russian, English, and French? I
do speak all three, yeah. And I'm learning Spanish.
This guy is versatile. This guy's Debo Samuel.
I'm trying.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
But nonetheless, thank you once again for joining me today, Brandon Graham, host of the First and 10 podcast. You'll probably be able to hear this episode, by the way, for those who haven't had the chance to tune in on my YouTube channel, which is the 94 by 50 podcast, as well as Facebook page, 94 by 50 podcast. It will be uploaded on Facebook at the termination of this episode. You will most definitely hear this episode on the First and 10, as well as I will share this episode with my friend Brandon here.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again, Brandon, for joining. Thank you, everyone who had the chance to join us today and listen to our content. If you do like our content, make sure to follow us on 94 by 50 podcast, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and OXP Media. I don't know if you have a page for your First and 10 podcast, but if you do, give it a shout.
Yeah. So OXP Media, right? You can have that there, but you can definitely follow on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. Just put in the First and 10 podcast, OXP Media, and you'll see all my stuff right there. YouTube, we're everywhere right there. Twitter as well too. So you can look me up in the Graham_JB, GRAHAM_JB on Twitter, and that's where I'll be, man. Thanks for having me, by the way. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Like I said, I know you know your football, and it only makes it right for me to talk about football with someone who actually knows more than me about football. So thank you once again. For those who did tune in, thank you as well. You'll be able to catch this episode, like I said, on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify as well. Just remember to always keep it simple.
Absolutely, man.